Yours to Melt by Rimu-Chi. Final arc. The moonlight that had once borne silent witness to their first stolen kiss now shimmered gently upon the tranquil sprawl of Tempest. 2 months had passed since the fateful Walpurgis, and the silver illumination of that night still clung stubbornly to Rimuru's memory, the way Velgrynd had stiffened in his arms, golden eyes wide with alarm and something far more delicate, far more dangerous. Desire, emotion, need. She hadn't said she loved him. No, Velgrynd was far too prideful for such fragile admissions, but she hadn't pulled away either. Now, in the months that followed, she lingered. Not as a guest. Not as a marshal of the Eastern Empire. But as something else. Something unnamed, unspoken, and undeniably his. Velgrynd, ever the proud Crimson Star, had grown more open in manner, a subtle tilt of her chin, a lingering glance, a slow and deliberate step to match his pace. And yet, the inferno of her arrogance had not dimmed. If anything, it burned hotter than ever. But to Rimuru, it only made her all the more irresistible. "PFTT. You're whipped," Shizu would tease with an impish glint in her spectral eyes, phasing beside him whenever Velgrynd turned her back. "She's got you on a leash. Can't say I'm not proud." Rimuru would roll his eyes and sigh, though never deny it. Velgrynd, of course, pretended not to hear. Or maybe she did hear, but refused to dignify such nonsense with a response. Still, she would steal time with Shizu now and then, sitting on sun-drenched balconies and talking about things long buried, things about Lucia, Milam's mother, the woman who had once married her elder brother Veldanaba, and whom Velgrynd had admired with reluctant reverence. In Shizu, perhaps, Velgrynd saw the echo of that poised, gentle strength. And for once, the Crimson Dragoness seemed at peace with another woman's company. And speaking of Milam, the Dragon Princess had arrived in Tempest not long after the Walpurgis, a whirlwind of pink hair and chaotic joy, leaping into Shizu's arms with tears streaming down her cheeks and a single word breaking the silence between them. "Mom." It shocked everyone, even Shizu. But it made sense. Deep, unshakable sense. Shizu had once been the mentor, the mother figure Milam never had. And now, reunited, the two moved through Tempest like light and warmth, child and parent, both finally home. Frey had allowed it, of course. With only a slight smirk and a single sharp warning: do not let her destroy another city. He'd nodded solemnly, then braced for the storm that was Milam. Meanwhile, life continued to blossom in Tempest. In a decision spurred by both fond memory and visionary hope, Rimuru had established a school. Not just any school, a shining beacon of knowledge, safety, and unity. And so Chloe, Ryota, Kenya, Gale, and Alice had returned, along with their teacher, Tis, the gentle and formidable instructor Rimuru trusted with his life. They now lived comfortably within Tempest, training, studying, growing. Rimuru often watched them from afar, marveling at how fate had wound these children into his story. But not all threads were so kind. Thanks to the tireless investigations of Sue, Soka, and their elite Kunoichi Corps, Rimuru had finally unearthed the truth. Yuki and Kagami, the shadows behind the curtains, had orchestrated much of the chaos that had plagued Tempest. False alliances, internal sabotage, manipulation of monsters and nations alike. And yet, Yuki was no longer a threat, at least not imminently. The gears he turned had slowed. For now, Rimuru allowed them to spin in silence. Calculated probability of interference remains below 0.3%, Master. Raphael's voice whispered across his mind like silk across steel. Recommended course: passive observation and contingency preparation. And contingency preparation was something Rimuru excelled at. The Eastern Empire loomed now on the horizon, not in immediate aggression, but in unavoidable future conflict. Velgrynd herself had warned him. Her presence in Tempest could not remain hidden forever. She had left behind a powerful clone within the Empire's borders, its sole purpose to mask her absence. But that magic would fail, sooner or later. And Rudra would come, but Rimuru was not afraid. He had Veldora, his chaotic, unpredictable tempest of a brother, whose presence alone could flatten an entire continent if not monitored. He had his subordinates, awakened and more powerful than ever, thanks to Veldora's annihilation of the Falmouth Kingdom and the resultant influx of nearly 3 million human souls. Rimuru had granted evolution to the most trusted among them. Benimaru now wielded a commander's presence that could rival any demon lord. Hakuro, already a master of the sword, moved with godlike precision and stillness. Geld had become an unshakable wall, a fortress given form. Shuna and Xian, his twin flames, shone with newly granted power. Xian, fierce and feral as always. Shuna, calm and terrifyingly divine. Gabiru, shockingly, had begun to live up to his boasts. With his new draconic evolution, he was no longer a punchline, but a rising star. Ranga, loyal as ever, had evolved into a beast of shadows and storms, while his younger kin grew under his watch. And the insects, Zijin, the living armor, and Apito, his not blood sister with unmatched speed and grace. Both stood as silent, sovereign protectors. Then there was Adelman, the living skeleton priest resurrected from Clayman's domain. With newfound dignity and strength, he guarded the faith and spirit of Tempest. And Kumara, the nine-tailed fox, whose each tail housed a different beast, was perhaps the most unpredictable of them all. Rimuru had to name all 9 of her spirits individually, a task that nearly drained even his immense magical reserves. Yet all of them, together, were invincible. To further bolster Tempest's might, Rimuru had summoned 3 more primordial demons. Blanc, the white primordial. John, the yellow. And Violet, the enigmatic purple. He named them with care. Blanc became Testarossa, the embodiment of elegance and death. John, reborn as Carrera, wielded destruction with a grin. And Violet, known now as Ultima, bore chaos and curiosity in equal measure. Diablo had taken them under his command, an amused, elegant overlord herding chaos incarnate. Rimuru could only sigh and be impressed. And with Ramirez now fully residing in Tempest, the eccentric fairy queen darting around like a sugar-fueled architect, the great labyrinth of 102 floors was nearly complete. Its final level, a gauntlet of danger, was powered entirely by Veldora's magicules. Even Diablo had admitted it was troublingly fun. Yes, Tempest had become a beacon. A sanctuary. A kingdom forged in battle, bound by trust, and crowned by love, even if that love refused to speak its name. Now, with the stars hanging low and the breeze carrying the scent of summer's dusk, Rimuru stood upon a balcony carved from dragonbone and spiritwood. Below him, the city thrived. And somewhere, beneath this same moon, Velgrynd watched it too, proud, silent, and burning. But that was a story for another night. Meanwhile far in the northern reaches of the world, where the sky itself seemed to freeze and the wind carried whispers of forgotten gods, sprawled the ice continent, an endless, gleaming expanse of snow-laced mountains and crystalline valleys, locked in eternal winter beneath a sun that hung cold and distant. There, built into the heart of the tallest glacier, stood an impossibility wrought from ancient power, a palace forged not by mortal hands, but by magic so deep and primal it seemed carved from the laws of existence itself. The castle of ice was less a fortress than it was a monument to stillness. Massive spires of translucent frost coiled like dragons toward the heavens, each glimmering with faint, cursed light. Walls lined with runic glyphs pulsed in a language older than time, keeping out the warmth of both sun and soul. Silence ruled here, oppressive and holy. And within that frozen monument to absolute sovereignty, a throne loomed, hewn from the purest, most unyielding ice in the continent. Its back was high, crowned with jagged crystals, each singing in disharmony with the next. Upon that throne, sprawled with a bored yet simmering intensity, sat Guy Crimson, the Lord of Darkness, Primordial Red, the ruler of the ice continent. And, perhaps, the most dangerous demon the world had ever dared to forget. He reclined like a panther at rest, legs crossed over the glacial armrest, chin tilted down, crimson eyes half-lidded in thought. And yet, his fingers tapped impatiently on the throne, an uncharacteristic tick betraying something deeper. Behind him, at the base of the frost-kissed dais, stood 2 figures in silent attention. The first, Rain. Her blue hair bore the expression of someone perpetually unimpressed, though her eyes never left her master. Beside her, Misery, with raven-black locks and a look far more solemn, shifted slightly, as though sensing the disquiet in the air. Neither spoke. The great doors of the ice hall groaned open with a sound like thunder splitting a glacier. A presence surged inward, cold, commanding, and impossibly graceful. Velzard, the white ice dragon, stepped into the throne room, her silvery white gown trailing behind like a comet's tail. Her hair, the same hue as the snowstorm outside, shimmered faintly, and her blue eyes narrowed with both irritation and amusement. "You look like you've been hit in the head by a falling mountain," she said flatly, arms crossed. "What's wrong with you?" Guy slowly exhaled, as if he'd been waiting for her. "Ah, Velzard. My ever-sharp icicle of sarcasm. It's nothing serious, just a headache." She raised a brow. "You, a headache? That's a first. What's the real reason?" Guy's lips twitched. "It's that dude." Velzard blinked. "That dude?" "Yeah." He leaned forward, resting an elbow on his knee. "Rimuru, and that blasted nation of his, Tempest." The corners of her mouth curved slightly. "You're getting headaches over Rimuru now. What did he do, flirt with you?" Guy shot her a look. "Don't joke. It's serious. That slime's growing way too fast. And now he has that overgrown toddler Veldora bouncing around as his best friend." Velzard smiled faintly. "Don't forget Velgrynd is with him now." And at that, Guy winced as if struck. "Exactly. That's the problem." Velzard's amusement faded. "You mean, Rimuru has two true dragons?" Guy nodded, lips curling into a grimace. "Two damn true dragons. And Rimuru himself. His strength is ridiculous. He's evolving faster than I anticipated. Hell, he's already strong enough to trade blows with Milam Nava herself." "Milam," Velzard echoed, intrigued. "But she's still in the Beast Kingdom, isn't she?" He shook his head. "Nope. Apparently, she's living in Tempest now, and get this, she's calling someone their mother." Velzard's golden eyes widened. "Milam? Calling someone mother?" She blinked once. "That's unexpected. Who?" "Someone named Shizu. A human. Used to be a hero. Now lives in Rimuru's nation like some adopted empress." He ran a hand through his crimson locks. "It's baffling." Velzard looked thoughtful. "Well, that's not something that should give you a headache. Curious, yes, but not threatening." Guy leaned back into his throne, staring up at the jagged icicles suspended above like frozen lightning. "You don't get it. Rudra and I are playing our long game. Balancing the pieces. But now, Rimuru's turned into a third player. One I didn't account for. With Milam. With Velgrynd. With Veldora. It's like dropping a boulder into a game of chess." Velzard's voice was as flat as the tundra. "You mean to say your carefully designed balance is being shattered by the slime who wanted to build a peaceful forest city?" Guy sighed dramatically. "I tried hard to bring balance to the world, damn it." "You mean ordering rain and misery to kill millions while you lounged on your frozen chair like a spoiled noble?" "That hurts, Velzard. Right in the pride. Good." Rain shifted behind them, muttering something about being overworked. Velzard stepped closer, folding her arms as she tilted her head. "So what? You're saying Rimuru's just breaking your cool guy act and that's enough to make your brain tremble?" No, he waved it off, lips twitching. "I mean, yes, but also no, it's not just the cool act, it's the implications." "You mean, the fact that you no longer hold the balance of power in your palm?" Velzard said icily. "That must sting." Guy didn't answer. Instead, he tilted his head back and stared into the frozen dome above him, listening to the distant hum of the ancient spell circles that protected this fortress of solitude. "It's not about power," he said at last. "It's about what he represents. He's unpredictable. More than Rudra. More than me. The world's shifting, and Rimuru's in the center of it." Velzard exhaled, cold mist forming in the air between them. "You're overthinking it," she said. "You always do." "Maybe," Guy replied. "But that's not the biggest issue right now." Velzard's brow twitched. "Oh, and what might that be?" Then Guy Crimson's crimson gaze flared like twin suns swallowed in blood. His gloved fist came down upon the side of the glacial throne with a crack that echoed through the frozen marbled hall. "That damn Rimuru summoned another primordial demons." His voice struck the arched ceiling like a thunderclap, reverberating between the columns of ancient frost and untouched icicles that glittered in pale moonlight. The frost-rimmed walls trembled, though the blizzard outside dared not breach the sanctity of this citadel. Velzard did not flinch. She stood still as eternity, arms folded beneath her alabaster cloak, long lashes lowered over pale sapphire eyes. She exhaled slowly, her breath misting in the cold air. "So," she said with a voice like breaking crystal, "a demon worries you that much?" Guy hissed through clenched teeth. "It's not about a demon. I don't care if he summoned 1 or 10. But he didn't just summon any demon. He commands 4 of the primordial colors now. Noir, Blanc, Jaune, even Violet." Velgrynd's silence came heavy. Then she raised a brow. "All 4? Under him?" Guy leaned forward on the throne, crimson hair tumbling over one shoulder like living fire. Behind him, Rain and Misery remained wordless. One stirred faintly, eyes narrowing, but even they knew better than to interrupt a storm brewing between true dragon and a primordial. Velgrynd's lips parted slightly, tone unmoved. "So what you're saying is, Rimuru now commands 4 of the primordial demons, alongside 2 true dragons. That's your concern?" "Yes," Guy growled. "Primordials are more dangerous than most true dragons. You should know that firsthand, Velgrynd. We're not just brute force. We manipulate the unseen threads. Reality, perception, existence." "And yet," Velgrynd said coolly, "you seem to forget. You are a primordial yourself, Guy Crimson. And those 2 behind you. Rain. Misery, they're yours." He slumped slightly, tossing his head to the side like a sulking teenager. "Yeah, duh, I know that." She stepped forward, snow cracking beneath her boots like splintering bones. "Then I failed to see the problem. If Rimuru is truly the reincarnation of Ashura, the unnecessary existence Veldanava could neither erase nor save, then this was always meant to happen." Guy met her gaze, eyes darkening into pits of ancient fire. "That's exactly the issue." She blinked. "Explain." "He's unstable," Guy said. "Ashura was always like that. Veldanava may have called him a brother, but even he couldn't predict him. One day, he was kindness incarnate. The next, he drowned entire continents in madness. And then he'd sit in a field of ruins, whispering poetry to the wind, and then rampage again." Velgrynd tilted her head, snow-white hair cascading over one shoulder. "I remember Ashura vaguely. He was strange. Beautiful and horrifying all at once." Guy's voice dropped, softer. "That's why Veldanava had to strip his ultimate skill. Rimuru. Evil Dragon Lord. That thing. It was too much. A Genesis-class skill. Raw chaos wrapped in elegance. Even Veldanava feared what it might become." Velgrynd's eyes snapped wide. "Wait, he had an ultimate skill? You never told me this." "Because I hoped it was gone," Guy muttered, gaze lost to the trembling torches casting long shadows. "Veldanava took it from him and handed it off to a dragon. A lesser one. Some Eastern Wyrm with no name worth remembering. That dragon's dead now. The skill disappeared. Or so we thought." Velgrynd's arms crossed tightly. "So Rimuru hasn't shown signs of reclaiming it, yet?" "Not yet," Guy said. "But I fear he will. According to Veldanava, Rimuru was unlike anything else. Not just destruction. Not just madness. Creation and ruin in perfect duality. It could remake the laws of causality while breaking them. If Rimuru reawakens even a fragment of that, we're done." Velgrynd looked to the high glass spire of the throne hall, where pale auroras danced through frozen windows of magical ice. Her tone, normally glacial, cracked faintly. "Then we should begin observing him more closely. No more waiting." Guy gave a slow nod. "Exactly. Tempest isn't a backwater country anymore. It's a powder keg of miracles." Then, his voice dropped into a growl, bitter and low. "And that's not even what worries me the most." Velgrynd, for all her composure, tilted her head. "It's not?" "No," Guy said. "There's something else. Something he said. Something that's been gnawing at my mind since the last Walpurgis." Her lips parted slightly, cold mist spilling between them. "What did he say?" Guy stared into the frozen wall across from him as if it could echo back Rimuru's voice. Something dangerous stirred in his pupils. Then Guy spoke again, his tone quieter this time, graver, as though the weight of what he was about to say clawed at even his immortal pride. "In Walpurgis, Rimuru said something strange. Something I can't ignore. He said, there is another one. Just like Veldanava, your elder brother, and Ivaraj." The frostbitten air seemed to still. Velzard's expression, ever cold and composed, faltered, her brows furrowed, golden lashes blinking slowly as the words sank into her bones. She took a step forward, the ice beneath her heels cracking in eerie harmony. "You mean to say," she asked, voice a ghost's whisper, "there exists another being, like Big Brother Veldanava?" Guy nodded grimly. "If what Rimuru said is true, then there's a third individual on par with the creator. Another being outside the cycle, outside logic." Velzard's gloved hands slowly folded over her chest, the white silk trembling faintly. "That is impossible. There were only two. Veldanava and Ivaraj, the evil dragon. One light, one shadow. That is what we've always believed." Guy leaned back, one leg casually thrown over the other, though his tension remained palpable. Belief doesn't rewrite reality. Rimuru implied that there was another. One unknown to even us. One only Ashura ever encountered. Velzard's pale eyes narrowed like a blade's edge. "So, Rimuru never named this third being?" "No," Guy replied, his voice bitter. "He didn't dwell on it. It looks like it was too annoying to explain. Called all three of them, Veldanava, Ivaraj, and the unknown one, idiots. As if you were talking about old drinking companions who wrecked a tavern." Velzard didn't laugh. Her voice, when it came, was like wind carving into glacier stone. "That sounds like Ashura." "It does," Guy admitted. "So we're left with a potential third godlike being, unknown to all but Ashura, now reborn as Rimuru," Velzard concluded, staring toward the stained frost glass windows. "And this information was given so casually?" "Exactly," Guy snapped, fingers tightening around the armrest. "Which means we need to start digging. We have to find out who this third one is before it's too late." Velzard turned to face him directly, the frozen light reflecting from her long silver hair like broken moonlight. "And how do you plan on finding this information? I doubt the records of heaven or the library of time would contain details on a being that even we primordials and true dragons don't know." Guy smirked faintly. "From Rimuru, of course. He knows something. That much is obvious." Velzard's eyes flashed, narrowed with disdain. "Do you honestly believe he'll tell you? After everything?" Guy looked away, expression unreadable. "We'll have to ask, directly." "You do realize," she said icily, "that Ashura was rejected by nearly every existence in this cosmos. Angels. Demons. Dragons. Even the divine spirits recoiled from him. He was branded unnecessary. Now that he has reincarnated into Rimuru, into a being capable of harmonizing destruction and creation, you think it's as simple as knocking on his door and saying, 'Tell me your secrets'?" Guy ran a hand through his crimson locks with a weary sigh. "No, I know it's not simple. But what other choice do we have? If this third being is anything like that damn evil dragon Ivaraj, if he's even half that twisted, we're not just in danger, we're doomed." Velzard's expression hardened into icy severity. "Then we go to Rimuru, and we ask." "Exactly," Guy nodded. "We go to Tempest. I don't care if he cloaks his lands in barriers or devours nations in silence. We find him, and we talk." "Are you truly convinced he'll give you an answer?" she asked, her voice little more than frost and doubt. "No," Guy admitted, eyes closing, "but we have to hope he does." He stood, his long crimson cloak flowing like molten silk behind him, the frost beneath his boots hissing in protest. A rare thing. Seeing the Lord of Crimson so unguarded, so human in frustration. "Damn Ashura," Guy muttered with a sigh, shoulders slumping just slightly. "Whether it's in his original form, or this newer version as Rimuru, both of them are giving me headaches. I swear." Velzard let out a breath, something between resignation and distant amusement. Even just the fragments of Ashura's soul, and they still alter the entire balance of the world. Guy glanced sideways, voice softer now. "It seems so. Equals far from existent equals a void. Not darkness, no, for even shadow has substance. This place was less than nothing, a realm where time never passed and matter had never been. A bottomless oblivion stretched without horizon, where stars dared not shine and even the concept of gravity trembled into meaninglessness. It was not silence that reigned here, but absence. A realm beyond concept, untouched by divine laws or demonic blasphemies. Yet amidst this cosmic emptiness floated a grass field. A single, Eternal plain of lush green swayed gently as if kissed by a phantom breeze that should not exist. The grass was impossibly vibrant, each blade glowing faintly with residual memory of creation's spark. Suspended upon that field, majestic and hauntingly serene, stood a castle carved from celestial crystal and pale stardust. The Heavenly Star Palace. Once, it was the throne of Velgrynd, the supreme god, the origin, the architect of the cosmos. Its towers rose like divine pillars, reaching beyond perception, woven from laws so pure they resisted entropy itself. Now, it stood abandoned. Hollow. A sacred skeleton of a bygone age, its radiant halls darkened, its divine corridors echoing only the whispers of memories. No longer the seat of the Creator, it served now as the headquarters of Feldway and the surviving primordial angels, a sanctum for their crusade to return to a world that had long since moved on without them. But far across the void, through layered folds of reality, another castle loomed. Its form was twisted, grotesque in symmetry, suspended within a rift torn violently through dimensions. The castle's stone bled mist and shadows, as though existence itself was rejecting it. The air there stank of decay and forgotten time, each breath a curse unto the soul. This was the spooky palace, the cursed fortress where Ivaraj, the evil dragon, had been sealed for over 200,000 years. A being born of the mirror of creation, the void's heartbeat given wrathful form. Even now, its black gates pulsed faintly, his tormented will lashing against chains older than the stars. Velgrynd had imprisoned him here after the War of Origin, when Avatar had turned against Avatar and cosmic harmony had nearly shattered. But between these two polarities, between divine starlight and shadowed hatred, lay a third place. Neither above nor below, neither light nor void, simply hidden. A realm outside of realms, veiled behind curtains of unbeing, untouched by the gaze of angels or devils. A palace suspended in a sliver of conceptual liminality. Its shape was vaguely reminiscent of the spooky palace, yet it was somehow worse. It had no foundation, no anchor in space or law. Its spires twisted toward non-existent skies, and its very presence screamed at logic's boundaries. This was the palace of death, but Velgrynd had once called it something else. The Diva's palace. It was not protected, for it could not be. There were no guards, no wards, no sacred rites to keep intruders away, because nothing that approached it survived long enough to breach its gates. It was not a place mortals or immortals could perceive, and those who could simply dared not. This palace predated creation. It had existed long before Velgrynd sang the first note of existence into being. Before time. Before matter. Before even Ivaraj opened his eyes of rage. It had been sealed, not locked, but banished, by Velgrynd at the height of his power. A feat so terrifying in scope it had nearly undone him. Within its halls slept the most dangerous being ever born. Not of the world, not of the void, but of nihility itself. She was neither goddess nor demoness, neither dragon nor spirit. She had no name, for names required meaning. She was the concept of non-existence, given form. She was the thing that birthed both creation and destruction, that ruled the space between beginning and end, the place even fate dared not look. Her aura, even in slumber, was so suffocatingly potent that it made Ivaraj seem like a tantrum-prone child. Even Milam Nava, born of Velgrynd and Lucia, would not compare. She was not chaos. She was the absence of all order. And her palace was sealed with a condition. A lock no being alive or dead could open. Only with one key. A being possessing both creation and destruction. Both stardust and nihility. Both origin and emptiness. One who could embody the beginning and the end in equal measure. Such a being did not exist, or rather, should not exist. But the cosmos had a cruel sense of irony. For unknown to angels, demons, dragons, or gods, unknown even to the self-righteous Feldway or the contemplative Guy Crimson, the seal was weakening. Minute by minute, layer by layer, the cosmic bindings that Velgrynd had once poured all his might into were fracturing. Not because of an outside force, but because her awakening had already begun. A sliver of thought, a tremor of breath, a flicker of motion in a world that should not move. Inside, resting upon a throne woven from hollow stars and dead time, she sat. Her body was elegant, impossibly beautiful, but her form was like a dream half remembered, constantly shifting, as if reality struggled to comprehend her existence. Her hair shimmered like the void between galaxies. Her skin was pale like ancient parchment, laced with veins of silver and abyssal. Her eyes remained closed, yet the fabric of space screamed with the pressure of her awareness. And still she slept, waiting, watching, a predator beneath still waters. She knew no hatred, she bore no malice, but her awakening meant annihilation, not of people, not of nations, but of meaning itself. She had been sealed for more than 100,000 billion years, since before the world system. Before the voice of the world. Before naming itself held weight. Even Velgrynd had nearly lost himself in the attempt to bind her. And now, the fracture spread. Just a hairline crack in the Great Seal. But it was enough. Soon, the world would know her. The innocent, yet cataclysmically dangerous. The beautiful, yet horrifyingly empty. The forgotten, yet inevitable. A being that existence itself rejected, yet could no longer contain. And when her eyes finally opened, all things, gods and mortals, dreams and memories, time and law, would crumble like ash beneath her barefoot step. She was waiting. Still waiting, but not for long.